On the morning of August 17, 1942, a teletype operator in Washington received a mission report from the 8th Air Force. The date stamp was correct. The location was not. 12 B-17 flying fortresses had struck Rouen, deep in occupied France, and returned to England. That much was expected. What wasn't expected was the time. The report arrived 36 hours ahead of schedule. General Henry Arnold read it twice. Then he checked the wire for errors. There were none. Spring 1942. Washington, D.C., the War Department. Henry Harley Arnold sits behind a desk piled with casualty projections, production schedules, and intelligence summaries from every theater. He is 56 years old, a pilot since 1911, one of the first men taught to fly by the Wright brothers themselves. Now he commands the largest Air Force expansion in human history. The United States Army Air Forces exist more on paper than in the sky. Hundreds of bases are under construction. Thousands of aircraft roll off assembly lines each month. Tens of thousands of young men crowd into training schools across the Sun Belt. But combat-ready heavy bomber groups? As of May 1942, the 8th Air Force can count its operational B-17 squadrons on one hand. Arnold knows the math. Europe is 6,000 miles away. The Luftwaffe controls the continent. RAF Bomber Command has been flying night raids for 2 years and losing crews faster than it can replace them. Daylight bombing, the American doctrine, remains untested under fire. Theory says the B, defensive armament and high-altitude formation flying, will allow unescorted penetration of enemy airspace. Theory has never met a Focke-Wulf 190. Arnold's greatest fear is not losses. It is irrelevance. If American bombers cannot prove themselves in 1942, the strategic air war will be handed entirely to the British. Resources will shift. Doctrine will be rewritten. The independence of American air power, the foundation of everything Arnold has built since 1939, will collapse before it begins. In June, the first B-17s of the 97th Bombardment Group arrive in England. They land at Polebrook, then move to Grafton Underwood. Crews are young, training is incomplete. Navigation over the North Sea and weather is a skill most have never practiced. The aircraft themselves are still being debugged. Oxygen systems freeze, guns jam at altitude. Turrets fail in combat temperatures. But there is no more time. On August 9, Arnold sends a coded message to Major General Carl Spaatz, commander of the 8th Air Force. The message is blunt. The president wants results. The British are skeptical. Congress is watching. A mission must be flown before the end of the month. It must hit a target in occupied Europe. It must demonstrate that American heavy bombers can strike in daylight and return. Spaatz reads the message in his headquarters at Bushy Park, west of London. He passes it to Brigadier General Ira Eaker, commander of WWII Bomber Command. Eaker looks at the weather reports, the crew readiness logs, and the intelligence maps. Then he picks a target. Rouen, a railway marshalling yard 100 miles beyond the English Channel. Defended but not heavily. Within range of RAF Spitfire escort, close enough for rookie crews to navigate, far enough to matter. The mission is scheduled for August 17. Arnold waits in Washington. He does not sleep well. He has bet the future of the Army Air Forces on the idea that precision daylight bombing will shorten the war. If the first mission fails, that idea becomes much harder to defend. If this history matters to you, tap like and subscribe. The men of the 97th Bombardment Group are not veterans. They are products of an assembly line as vast as the one that built their aircraft. Most are in their early 20s. They have between 200 and 400 hours of flight time. Some have never seen combat. None have flown a bombing mission over Europe. Their commander is Colonel Frank Armstrong, 36 years old, a meticulous planner with a reputation for coldness under pressure. Armstrong does not fly often, but when he does, he leads from the front. He will fly the lead aircraft on the Rouen mission. In the left seat beside him will be Major Paul Tibbets, a pilot whose name will later become synonymous with a different mission entirely. The crews gather for briefing on the afternoon of August 16. The target is revealed, Rouen-Sotteville, a rail yard. The route is drawn on the map, across the channel, landfall near deep, then south along the Seine. Altitude 23,000 feet. Bomb load 6,000 pounds per aircraft. Escort 4 squadrons of RAF Spitfires. The navigators study the charts. The bombardiers check their Norden sights. The gunners load belts of 50 caliber ammunition into the turrets and waist positions. Everything is done by checklist. There is no bravado. These men have been trained to think of flying as a technical problem. Emotion is a distraction. At dawn on August 17, the engines start. 12 B-17Es, their olive drab paint still fresh, taxi into position. The aircraft are named but not yet famous. Butcher Shop, Birmingham Blitzkrieg, Johnny Reb. The names are painted below the cockpit windows in white block letters. Each aircraft carries 10 men. Armstrong's bomber, Butcher Shop, leads the formation. Tibbets advances the throttles. The four Wright Cyclone engines roar to full power. The bomber accelerates down the runway, lifts, retracts its gear. One by one, the others follow. They form up over the English countryside. 3 squadrons, staggered altitudes, tight spacing. The formation is called a combat box. It is designed to concentrate defensive firepower and protect the vulnerable belly and nose of each aircraft. The theory is sound. It has never been tested under sustained fighter attack. At the Channel coast, the Spitfires join them. The RAF pilots weave above and behind the bombers, watching for German fighters. The weather is clear. Visibility unlimited. Every man in every aircraft understands what this mission represents. If it succeeds, there will be more. If it fails, there may not be. The doctrine that put those bombers over France was born in the classrooms of the Air Corps Tactical School in the 1930s. It rested on 3 assumptions. First, that the heavy bomber was fast enough and high enough to evade most interceptors. Second, that massed defensive fire from a tight formation would repel any fighter that closed within range. Third, that the Norden bomb site, under clear conditions, could place bombs within 100 feet of an aim point from 4 miles up. All 3 assumptions were controversial. The British had tried daylight bombing in 1939 and 1940. Losses were catastrophic. By 1941, RAF Bomber Command had shifted entirely to night operations. Accuracy suffered, but survival rates improved. The British view, stated bluntly to Arnold and Spots, was that unescorted daylight bombing was suicide. Arnold disagreed, not on emotion but on production capacity. America could build bombers faster than Germany could build fighters. If losses stayed below 10% per mission, the math favored the bomber. Attrition would grind down the Luftwaffe. Factories, refineries, and rail yards would burn. The combined bomber offensive, a joint American-British strategy approved in early 1942, depended on this logic. But there was a problem: fighter escort range. The Spitfire, the best interceptor available to the Allies in 1942, has a combat radius of roughly 175 miles. Beyond that, the bombers fly alone. The P-47 Thunderbolt, just entering service, can reach 230 miles with drop tanks. Still not enough to cover Berlin or the Ruhr or any target deep inside the Reich. This creates a gap, a killing zone. Between the Channel coast and the German interior, there is a belt of airspace where American bombers will face the Luftwaffe without help. Doctrine says they can survive it. Combat will test whether doctrine is right. Arnold knows the Rouen mission will not answer that question. Rouen is shallow, lightly defended, a proof of concept, not a crucible. But it is the first step. If the crews cannot succeed at Rouen, there is no point in trying the Ruhr. In Washington, Arnold waits. The mission is scheduled to last 4 hours. Takeoff at 15:30 Zulu. Wheels down by 19:30. A liaison officer is assigned to monitor the teletype for updates. Arnold tells him to forward any report immediately, no matter the hour. Arnold spends the evening reviewing aircraft production figures. B-17 output is climbing. B-24 Liberators are being diverted from the Pacific. New groups are forming every week, but none of it matters if the bomber cannot survive in daylight. The entire edifice of American air strategy rests on that single assumption. The next morning, August 18, Arnold receives the first report. All 12 bombers returned. No losses, targets struck, limited flak damage, 1 crewman wounded. He reads it carefully, then he checks the time stamp. The report is dated August 17, 1942, sent at 20:15 Zulu, received in Washington at 20:34 Zulu, 49 minutes after the bombers landed. It should have taken at least a day, maybe 2, for mission results to be compiled, transmitted across the Atlantic, and delivered to his desk. Operational summaries in 1942 move by encrypted cable, and often by courier pouch when security classifications require it. Initial radio traffic confirms aircraft recovery, but detailed bomb damage assessment, crew debriefs, and formation analysis take time. Arnold looks at the report again. He realizes what he is seeing, not a delay, an acceleration. Someone in England prioritized this mission above all others. The report was coded, transmitted, decoded, and routed to his desk faster than standard procedure allowed, faster than any previous mission summary from any theater. It arrives 36 hours ahead of what had been the norm. The decision to fast-track the Rouen report did not originate with Arnold. It came from Eaker. Eaker understands the political situation. The 8th Air Force is under scrutiny from every direction. Churchill doubts the Americans can succeed where the RAF failed. Roosevelt needs a win to justify the Europe First strategy to a public still reeling from Pearl Harbor. Arnold needs proof that his doctrine works, and Eaker needs to keep his command. On the afternoon of August 17, as the bombers return to Grafton Underwood, Eaker is already drafting the summary. He does not wait for full debriefs. He does not wait for reconnaissance photos. He watches the aircraft land, counts them, confirms the target was struck, and sends the report. It goes by encrypted cable to Bushy Park, then to the War Department Signal Center in Washington, then to Arnold's desk. Total time, under 90 minutes from wheels down to delivery. In the context of 1942 communications, this is extraordinary. It reflects desperation as much as efficiency. Arnold reads the report and understands immediately what Eaker is doing. He is proving that American bombers can operate in daylight, and he is proving it fast enough to matter. Timing is strategy. If the report had arrived 2 days later, the news cycle would have moved on. Congressional attention would have drifted. The window to shape perception would have closed. But there is a risk. Speed sacrifices thoroughness. The report does not include bomb damage assessment photos. It does not include detailed after-action interviews. It does not quantify the accuracy of the bombing or the effectiveness of German defenses. What it does include is the only number that matters in Washington on August 18, 1942: 0 losses. Arnold picks up the phone. He calls the officer in charge of public relations. He tells him to prepare a press release. Then he calls Spots. The conversation is brief. Arnold says one thing clearly: do it again. The second mission flies 2 days later. The target is a Luftwaffe airfield near Abbeville. 24 B-17s take off. All return. The third mission on August 21 strikes Rotterdam, the fourth Le Trait, the fifth Lille. Each mission pushes a little deeper. Each tests a different variable. Higher altitude, longer escort range, denser flak. By the end of August, the 8th Air Force has flown 6 missions and lost 1 bomber. The survival rate exceeds 98%. Arnold reads each report as it arrives. They come faster now. Eaker has streamlined the process. Initial summaries reach Washington within hours. Full intelligence reports follow by courier. The acceleration is intentional. Arnold wants the War Department, the White House, and the press to see a tempo, not isolated successes, but momentum. In early September, Arnold flies to England. He visits Grafton Underwood to the hardstands, speaks with the crews. He does not congratulate them. He asks questions. How long to form up? How accurate is the Norden at 23,000 feet? How effective is the defensive fire? Are the oxygen systems holding up? The crews answer carefully. The missions so far have been shallow. The Luftwaffe has not committed in force. Flak has been moderate. Formation discipline is improving, but gaps remain. Some pilots are too cautious, others too aggressive. The lead bombardiers are still learning how to compensate for wind drift at altitude. Arnold listens. He knows what these men are not saying. The easy missions are over. The Luftwaffe is watching. German intelligence is analyzing American tactics. The next phase will be harder. But the doctrine has survived its first contact with reality. That is enough. On September 6, Arnold returns to Washington. He drafts a memo to General George Marshall, the Army Chief of Staff. The memo is titled 8th Air Force Operations, Preliminary Assessment. It is 3 pages long. The conclusion is 1 sentence: daylight precision bombing is feasible. Marshall forwards the memo to the President. The Germans read the same data and draw different conclusions. By late August, Luftwaffe intelligence has identified the American bomber formations as B-17s operating from East Anglia. The altitude, speed, and formation tactics are noted. Fighter units in northern France are briefed. New interception protocols are drafted. The German assessment is cautious. The Americans are inexperienced. Their formations are tight but predictable. Their escort range is limited. They have not yet struck a heavily defended target. The shallow missions are training runs. The real test will come when the bombers fly beyond the Spitfire's radius. That test comes on October 9, 1942. The target is the Fives-Lille steel works deep in northern France. 108 B-17s take off. German fighters intercept in force. 4 bombers are shot down. 36 are damaged. It is the highest loss rate the 8th Air Force has experienced. Arnold reads the report in Washington. He does not panic. He calculates. 4 out of 108 is 3.7%. Acceptable, sustainable. He sends a message to Eker, continue operations. But the calculus is shifting. The Luftwaffe is learning. German fighter tactics are evolving. Head-on attacks, previously rare, become standard. The B-17's nose, protected only by handheld guns, is vulnerable. Losses begin to climb. By December, the loss rate per mission averages 5%. Still sustainable, but the margin is thinning. Arnold orders the installation of Chin turrets on all new B-17GS. He accelerates P-47 deployment. He pushes for drop tank production, but the fundamental problem remains. Fighter escort range is fixed by fuel capacity and the laws of physics. The killing zone deepens. In early 1943, the 8th Air Force begins flying missions into Germany. The Ruhr, Wilhelmshaven, Schweinfurt. The losses are staggering. On some missions, 10% of the force does not return. On others, 15%. The math that Arnold relied upon in August no longer holds. The bomber is not surviving unescorted deep penetration. Arnold does not reverse course. He doubles down. More bombers, more groups, more raids. He believes correctly that the Luftwaffe cannot sustain its own attrition. But the cost is brutal. Entire crews are lost on their 5th or 6th mission. The statistical life expectancy of a B-17 crewman in 1943 is 15 missions. A combat tour is 25. By the summer of 1943, the doctrine Arnold defended is in crisis. The British press begins calling the American strategy a failure. Some American commanders quietly agree. Proposals are floated to shift the 8th Air Force to night operations. Arnold rejects them all. In November 1943, the P-51 Mustang enters service. Equipped with drop tanks, it can escort bombers to Berlin and back. The killing zone closes. Loss rates drop. The combined bomber offensive resumes in earnest. By the time Germany surrenders in May 1945, the 8th Air Force has flown more than 10,000 missions. It has dropped 700,000 tons of bombs. It has lost more than 4,000 heavy bombers and 26,000 men. Rouen, the first mission, cost nothing. It proved everything. Henry Arnold retired in 1946. He was the only Air Force officer ever to hold 5-star rank. He suffered multiple heart attacks during the war. The strain of commanding an Air Force that grew from 20,000 men to 2 million in 4 years took a permanent toll. He lived another 4 years, long enough to see the creation of an independent United States Air Force, the institution he spent his entire career trying to build. He never spoke publicly about the August 17 report. There were no memos, no speeches, no interviews highlighting the fact that it arrived 36 hours faster than expected. In the vast archive of Arnold's wartime correspondence, the speed of that single transmission is a footnote, if it appears at all. But the timing mattered. The report reached Washington while momentum was still possible. It shaped coverage, influenced congressional briefings, and reinforced the argument Arnold had been making since 1939. That argument was simple. Air power, properly applied, could decide wars, but proper application required autonomy, resources, and time. The Rouen mission bought all three. The doctrine it validated was never perfect. It cost thousands of lives. It required technological innovations that did not exist in 1942. It depended on industrial capacity so vast that no other nation could have sustained it. But it worked. Not because bombers were invincible, but because the institution behind them refused to stop iterating. Arnold understood something his critics did not. Doctrine is not doctrine until it survives contact with the enemy. Everything before that is theory. Rouen was the moment theory became doctrine. It was shallow, cautious, and short. It proved nothing about deep penetration or unescorted operations or the survivability of the B-17 against a fully committed Luftwaffe. But it proved that American bombers could take off, fly over occupied Europe, drop bombs, and come home. In August 1942, that was enough. The report that arrived 36 hours early was not an accident. It was a signal. Eker sent it. Arnold read it. The institution responded, the missions continued, the doctrine evolved, and the air war, for better and worse, became what Arnold always believed it could be. Not a sideshow, not a support arm, but a force capable of bringing entire nations to their knees. That belief, tested over Rouen on a clear summer morning, would define the next 3 years of war, and every air campaign that followed.